Jimmy. So one of the things you may not know as you're a part of this community is that there are a lot of conversations and emails that are exchanged as we get ready for a Sunday morning experience together. We have a theme for the morning, and we talk about the music choices and the reading choices and all of that before we get ready. And I prepare my talk pretty much in advance and get that kind of general idea what the message is going to be to all the other people on the team. And sometimes, every now and then, something inspires me in a way that changes things a little bit. And I'm told in ministerial school to never let a prepared message get in the way of the talk that you're supposed to give. And so today I scheduled myself, and everyone on the team was expecting me to talk about abundance and prosperity and wealth, because after all, that's the international theme for Centers for Spiritual Living this month. And if you read the newsletter and such things, you're probably expecting that this morning as well. However, today I feel absolutely called to talk with you about something else. Today I feel compelled to be a minister. Compelled to be a minister. So my talk's not going to be about abundance and all of that this morning. I awoke yesterday morning to a dream. To a dream where I was praying. And I was in this dream, I was in the middle of this ministerial class situation where it went down the line, and the first person was supposed to talk about a prayer request and do a prayer, and then pass it to the next person who was supposed to add on to that and remember the prayer request from that person, and then add their own prayer request, and then pray, and then pass it down the line. And when it got to me in my dream, I started the process, but I started getting confused about the prayer requests that had been passed down to me, and the names and the situations, and I began to struggle and feel unprepared for the activity that I was doing. And I could feel the teacher just kind of wanted to end my suffering and my struggling and wanted to kind of just pass it to the next person, but I stopped her in my dream. And instead of trying to remember all of the different things I was supposed to be praying about, I dropped into a more powerful and a more general prayer. And I started praying and knowing deeply that no matter what the situation was that came down the line to me, God was at hand. Spirit had the details that were spoken, and I didn't need to know them. What I knew was the spiritual truth that in all of those situations, all was well. That no matter what challenge any one of those people were facing, they could firmly sit in their hearts and know that they were protected and held in the grace and love of God. That they could know that their life was unfolding as it should, and that their situation was showing up in all of its complicated details to show them the way home. Home to what? Home to their connection with something bigger and greater and more constant than the world of effects that were going on all around them on the human level. That is the prayer I woke up in yesterday morning. And when I woke up, my cheeks were a little bit damp, and I realized I had really been in that space, in a consciousness level beyond being fully awake. And it was a dream, but after I awakened, I decided to just stay right there in that feeling, and I dropped into a more conscious state of prayer. And it was a prayer request that I was making of my highest self. I prayed to be able to have this firm of a knowing as I serve in this pulpit with all of you. You see, each of you are in your own situations. You may speak of your situations to me, or you may be talking to one of our practitioners about what's going on in your life, or maybe I receive them through intuition, but more likely Facebook posts. And just hearing you talk about your situations in your life with each other in my general presence. But regardless of how I know, I am aware of many things that are going on in your lives. And I know that there are a million other human things going on in your lives, in your minds, in your hearts that you haven't uttered to another human being. See, I know that in this very room, there are new marriages, new relationships kind of unfolding in tenderness. There are new grandchildren and older children and grandchildren that are represented in this room, and they're going through just normal childhood stuff and challenges and things like that. There are Supreme Court things going on in people's minds and hearts, and there are also people living in new cities and trying to figure out their way around unfamiliar places, and there are friendship struggles going on and represented in this room, and there are new jobs and bigger projects, and there are medical situations and stuff that have to be faced, and there are lonely nights lying in the bed next to the person you intend to spend the rest of your life with, but you are trying to figure that out. And there are adult children represented that are just trying to figure out their just normal independence. And as your minister, I am trying to create a place for all of us to have these experiences in the midst of love and peace and joy and connection, in the middle of all that stuff. I'm trying to help us create a filling station so that when we're running on fumes and we pull into our parking space on a Sunday morning, we leave here at the end a little more full of light than we were when we got here. So my prayer is to be enough, to be guided on how to do that with you. Because here's the deal, I need this too. I'm out there in the same world you are, trying to watch what is going on around me and around this new city and state that I live in, and this country that I live in, and around the world. And I have to try to make spiritual sense of it and human sense of it too. And I need my Sunday morning filling station. So I prayed yesterday morning for myself to be enough in my role in your life and in this community. And this has kind of been on my mind kind of all week, because I tried to write about this in my newsletter. I don't know if you read it, but I did write about it. And to begin the article, I quoted a song lyric. I don't know if I can sing it. I thought I might be able to, but I don't think I can. But the lyric says, "Can we be like drops of water falling on a stone, splashing, breaking, dispersing in air, weaker than the stone by far, but be aware that as time goes by, the rock will wear away. If we're Meg Christian, thank you, Meg. If we're going to be water drops of love and grace and compassion and peace and joy on the rock. What is the rock? The rock is the cynicism and the hate and the fear. If we're going to be those water drops on that rock, then we have to have enough of God's heat in our lives to keep us from having our spiritual water freeze. And how do we freeze? We freeze by being overwhelmed. We freeze by being overwhelmed by having to be too spiritually strong, too poised, too above it all, right? We stay fluid, dripping fountains of spiritual water by maintaining our knowing. And we do that by praying and coming together and reminding each other of the power of Spirit itself. And that power is wanting to express into all of this stuff we have going on through us. We are the people we have been waiting for. We are the souls that will make a difference in the world, especially in Florida, especially in Tampa, especially in our neighborhoods, in our workplaces, and in our own families. We are the light of darkness in our own minds. And so I pray to be enough to keep you awake to your spiritual truth. And I know that there are ministers all over the world praying for that, praying to be enough. And not just New Thought ministers, but rabbis and good old-fashioned preachers and teachers and monks and Sikhs and leaders of every faith are praying to be enough. There's a little story that kind of illustrates this. There was a rabbi and a soap maker, and this is not a joke. I don't tell jokes, but this is not a joke. A rabbi and a soap maker were walking along, and the soap maker said, "Rabbi, what good is religion? Look at all the trouble and misery of the world. Still there, even after years, thousands of years of teaching about goodness and truth and peace, still there after all the prayers and sermons and teachings. If religion is good and true, why should this be?" And the rabbi was silent. He said nothing, but they kept walking. And eventually the rabbi noticed this bunch of children playing in this big mud puddle. They were having a blast. They were covered in mud. And the rabbi said to the soap maker, he said, "Look at those children. You say that soap makes people clean. But see the dirt on those youngsters? What good is soap? What good is soap? With all the soap in the world, these children are still filthy. I wonder how effective soap is after all." And the soap maker protested. He's like, "Wait, but Rabbi, soap cannot do any good unless it is used." "Ah," said the rabbi. "Soap cannot do any good unless it is used. Spirituality cannot do you any good unless you use it. You must know that when you're watching the news, you can turn it off and drop into prayer. You must know that when you're hurting inside your own relationships, you can hit pause and you can go into the silence and remind yourself that you are the love of God expressing in this home and with this person, and you're learning just as fast as you can. You must know that when you leave that doctor's office, you can wrap your arms around your body and drop into profound gratitude that it has carried you for all the miles it has carried you and will carry you for many, many more. You must know that as you march in protest, or you go out there and try to get out the vote, or you shake your neighbor's hand anyway, you are doing all of it as the spiritual being that you are. You are bringing the light into that situation wherever you go. Spirituality will serve you as you allow it to serve you. And I know, because I practice this every day. I'm on the same highway you're on. Life still happens to be in my family too. And that is why I dream about praying and then wake up and really do it. So let me tell you what I'm talking about in my own life this week. So when I left here 2 weeks ago, after a magnificent pet blessing, I hope you all enjoyed that, and I hope all your dogs did too. It was so much fun. If you weren't here, it's on YouTube, and you can see it. It was really fun. But anyway, when we left here, we were headed to North Carolina for 12 days. So I decided to leave my car at the airport because I needed to fly back Friday. I had the first Friday event Friday night, and I needed to be here today, obviously, and Becky's birthday was Thursday, so she wanted to play a little bit longer than I could play. So I decided I would fly back on Friday, and so I left here, and I took my car and left it near the airport. And I decided to do some off-property parking near the airport, which I signed up for in advance online. You sign up. So I didn't pay too much attention to the details when I signed up for it weeks ago, but that morning, after the pet blessing, I'm like reading through what I'm supposed to do. And as I read the instructions, it seemed to be quite complicated. The garage was behind a hotel, and the hotel was in a part of a major business center when there were 2 garages, and it was very confusing. And anyway, I was proud when I got there, and I found the parking place, and I went to the area that I was supposed to park in, and I did everything I thought I was supposed to do. Then I went and I jumped in the car with Becky and Darby, and off we went. So a few days later, while I'm up in North Carolina, I decided to get out the instructions that were in my purse and try to figure out, okay, what am I supposed to do on the other end? When I get back to Tampa, what am I supposed to do to get back to my car? And it was then that I read in the tiny print that if you parked in the wrong spot, you will be towed. My heart did that thing that yours just did. You read the words, your car will be towed. You know, I had that little cold blood feeling, you know, that it was like, holy crap. I was like, I was kind of on a cloud after the pet blessing, as I sometimes am on Sunday mornings, and I was kind of in a hurry to get back to the car with Darby, and I didn't really want to fly back into town and not be able to get to my car and have to find some tow lot where my car had been towed, and this is an unfamiliar city, and how much does 12 days of tow parking cost? I had no idea. And so I just ruminated on this for hours, running all the scenarios in my head. I kind of had a hard time sleeping, and I couldn't even talk to Becky about it because she would have been really frustrated that I didn't pay attention to the details, and she would be talking about how much would it be, and she would probably be looking that up, and I'm like, okay, so I decided to just keep it all inside of me, and I was really rolling around in the mud with the children. And a lot of mud, and I realized I really needed some soap. So I dropped into spiritual practice, and I asked myself, okay, Laine, what do you know? What do you know? In the middle of this situation, what do you really know? And here's what I can muster up. I know that I live in a benevolent universe. I know that even if my car gets towed, I will have learned a lesson, and I'll just pay the fine and move on after a few hours of discomfort and stress, right, and hassle. I know I will get through it. These were the basic things that I could know from a distance. Then I asked a different question. there is a power in the universe and you can use it, as Ernest Holmes has taught you, Laine. What could you decide to know? Could you decide to know? I could decide to know that I am surrounded by generous human beings that do not want to tow other people's cars. I could decide to know that my inner guide would not have had me park in the wrong place. I could decide to remember that if I live a life that works, then it will work smoothly. And I could decide to ask a team of practitioners to know this with me. So on that prayer call I referenced earlier in the service on a Tuesday night, which I could have understandably missed since I was on vacation, I got on that prayer call. And I asked the practitioners to know smooth travels for me on Friday. I didn't get into all the details. I didn't tell them the story about the parking garage. I just asked them to know that little final part with me, that my day of travel went smoothly. And after that prayer call, I just kept affirming that from Tuesday all the way to Friday. And on Friday, I got on the plane at an unbelievable early hour of the morning, and I took the shuttle from the Tampa airport over to said hotel situation, and I walked out into the garage to my car, which was indeed parked in the wrong garage, but nonetheless not towed. And I got in my car, and I melted into pure gratitude. Pure gratitude. And I took the time to drive slowly around the property and assess how I should have entered the garage in case I ever want to use this parking garage next time. But that experience taught me some things. Yeah, it taught me that I needed to read the instructions more carefully and ask questions if I didn't fully understand. But it also taught me that I have the spiritual muscle to deal with the upsets that life throws at me. And sure, a car parking situation is a tiny mud puddle comparison to the other things that I had to deal with this week. But it is the same spiritual muscle that I am flexing in all of the situations in my life. It's the soap that washes away fear. Fear of a towed car, but it washes away the tears from an argument with a friend or the terror at a news story. It's the same spiritual muscle, it's the same soap. Because when you get the mud off, you're left with the truth that we're all evolving. We're all trying to uncover our connection with something bigger than ourselves, with a life worth living, where we can make a difference, where we can matter. So thank you for letting me completely change my message this morning. I promise I will get to abundance and prosperity and all those things that you were waiting for this morning. You just have to come back. The next one is in October. But it just seemed more important this morning from my perspective. And while I'm kind of talking off subject, let me just say one more thing. I often get asked why I don't gear my talks more to what is going on in the world, in the news, in politics, the latest injustice or upset or whatever. Why don't I address those things too often? And let me explain my perspective on that question. It kind of goes back to what I said earlier. Suncoast Center for Spiritual Living is a spiritual healing station. We're a place where you can come on a Sunday morning or a First Friday or whenever, a class or at the bar watching the Bucks, whatever. Whenever you are around this community, you get a dose of love and light and compassion and connection. You get a listening ear and a warm heart. You might even get a bar of soap. But it's where you can come eat some good and wholesome spiritual food. You can come and hear songs that are about hope and life and love. Songs that remind you that life is good. You can hear spoken words that you are enough just as you are. You're encouraged to love yourself more and love everyone else in the world more too. And let me just say, you are welcome here if you are a Democrat, you are welcome here if you are a Republican, and you are welcome here if you don't even care about any of that. You are welcome here. There are no sides in spiritual truth. That's all human stuff. That's human stuff trying to figure out where we fit. We are one. And I will say that every single lesson I teach, I know that if you listen close enough, you will find something in it that is applicable to your current life right here and right now beyond these walls. The philosophy of science of mind was solidified during the time of the World Wars. Holmes himself witnessed and taught through many times of distress in this country and in the world. And I know that this teaching has helped generations of people live an empowered life of peace and joy and healing. I trust that Spirit expresses through all of us in this room to make sure each and every person leaves here feeling more positive than when they walked in. That's my job. And if I can stay centered in my knowing, I can love you all and lead you all through whatever. So please join me in prayer this morning. And I will try. Can we be like drops of water falling on a stone, splashing, breaking, dispersing in air, weaker than the stone by far, but be aware that as time goes by, the rock will wear away. So here's what I know. What I know is that the divine spirit of the all, the intelligence that guides this entire thing that we call life, is good and eternally good. I know that we are each here to express that and to go through whatever human experiences that are called to our path by appointment. And that we have within us a knowing that life is for us. And that everything we experience is to our betterment, to our evolving, to our higher path. And then we get to choose if we spiral upward. And so I know for us right here and right now, the ability to stay fluid, to stay soft and dripping with love and compassion. And I know the rock of cynicism and hatred and fear is no match for a constant drip, drip, drip of God's love. And so